Today we have with us the 2020 BS6 engine compliant Honda Jazz. Now Honda says that this car is for the very demanding customers because this car fulfills every single need of theirs. And that's exactly what we're going to see about in this video. First we're going to talk about the styling, followed by the performance of this car, then the features, not to mention the practicality and the comfort of this car. Last we'll talk about the pricing and the driving experience of this car. So stick around till the complete end for the detailed review of this car. And without any further ado, let's get started.
We are considerably new channel and the main USP of our channel is to provide the most detailed review of any car. And if you like this kind of detailed reviews, so I think that pressing that red subscribe button would be a nice option. And also great thanks to Courtesy Honda for making this review possible. It is an official Honda dealership here in Industrial Area Phase 1, Chandigarh. They have an awesome inventory of all the Honda cars and you can contact them using the links in the description below. Now finally, let's start the review.
Now as told you previously in the start of the video, we said that Honda considers this car to be for the demanding customers. And to be really honest, I myself am a demanding customer. So I'll tell you what I demand from a car of such level. First off, at least projector headlamps. LED would be much better. Presence of fog lamps, at least in the top model. At least 16-inch alloy wheels and then LED tail lamp. So those are my 4 demands from the Honda Jazz. Now let's see if it can fulfill those. So up front over here we have a LED headlamp setup. So that I think is pretty cool and my first demand is fulfilled. We also have fog lamps in this car, so that checks the box for the second demand. But what's better over here is that they're actually LED fog lamps, not just a normal halogen bulb which we get in many cars these days. We get LED fog lamp setup, which I think is really cool. So before we move on to the third and fourth demand, which is on the side and the rear of this car, let's just talk about the front fascia of this car, which I think is really cool. Reason being, this time around they have styled the Honda Jazz like the previous generation Honda City. I mean, I myself think it to be that. So like looking at the headlamps, the style of the grille of this car, everything resembles the previous generation, that is the 4th generation of the Honda City. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, but that's what I think. But one thing that I have a small little complaint about is this chrome bar over here. It's chrome on the top part, but down below we get a piano black finish, which was okay, but looking at all the other Honda cars such as the Honda City, the WRV, even the Honda Amaze, every car gets a chrome finish, completely chrome finished bar over here, but not in the Honda Jazz. I don't know why they did that. The chrome bar just looks really cool. Alright, so talking about the side profile of the Honda Jazz, my demand was at least 16-inch alloy wheels for the top model of the Honda Jazz. But looking at the alloy wheels, we do not get 16 inches, we get a 15-inch alloy wheel design in the all-new Honda Jazz, even in the top model. So that's a small little box that for my demands the Honda Jazz did not check, but still let's have a look further ahead. The styling of the Honda Jazz from the side profile is very unique, something I haven't seen in the competitors of this car, and that is kind of the slopey roof design and the design of the front end of the Honda Jazz. As you can see, the bonnet is really small. I mean, it starts and ends just within an arm's length. So that's a unique little styling cue that I haven't seen in many cars. That I think is one of the things that makes the Honda Jazz special. The alloy wheel design is really beautiful, so that's a plus side, and other than that it's just a normal simple Honda Jazz. Now let's move into the rear and see if it checks out the last box. And so as soon as we get to the rear over here, we see that it does check out the box of LED tail lamps. So yes, we get LED tail lamps in this car. However, the reverse light and the indicator light given below over here are normal halogen bulbs. But that's completely fine. That's what I expected from a car of this price. So there is no complaints from my side from the tail lamps of this car. But anyways, let's talk about the styling of the rear over here. Talking about badging, we get the Jazz badging over here. We get a chrome bar extending from the left to the right tail lamp. We get the Honda badge in between the chrome bar, and over on this side we get the ZX, that is the top model badging, and the IV Tech signifying the petrol engine in this car. But I wanted to direct your attention once again to the tail lamps in this car, and having forget this part, if this part weren't here, don't you guys think that this part over here resembles the tail lamp design of a Hyundai i10? Well, I certainly do think so. What do you think? Tell me in the comments down below. Now it's time to talk about the performance of the new BS6 compliant engine that we get in this car. Well, it's a BS6 engine capable of both the automatic and the manual transmissions, and this time around we only get a petrol engine option and not a diesel one, so do keep that in mind. But anyways, let's have a look under the hood of this car. Once you open the hood, we can see that we have a 1.2 liter engine in this car, capable of producing 89 brake horsepower and 110 Newton meters of torque, regardless of which transmission you have, automatic or manual. Both the transmission options give you the same amount of power through the engine, but there is a difference in the fuel economy that you get. With the petrol engines of the manual transmission, you get a fuel economy of 16.6 kmpl. However, with the automatic, you get a slightly higher average, and that is of 17.1 kmpl. So that I think is pretty cool.
So we're going to start the features in this car with this beautiful multifunction steering wheel, which is also leather wrapped. This also feels a very sporty steering wheel due to this mesh over here. We're going to talk about the buttons in a minute, but first we're going to talk about the stocks which are available in this car. Over on this side we have the normal washer fluid and wiper stock, and over on this side we have the normal light switch and the indicator stock. Now talking about the buttons in this car, we have these buttons for controlling the infotainment display in this car, these buttons for picking up call, ending call, and a voice assistant which is not AI based, which means when you press it you can only control few features that are available to control with the voice. For example, you can only speak these options. One great feature in this car is that we also get pedal shifters for spirited driving in this car. Then we have these multifunction buttons over here which are for cruise control in this car, which is a great feature. If we look into the gauge cluster, we have a normal display in this car. First we will talk about this display. If we look at it, first we have the normal odometer in this car. If we press the stock, then we have the range of this car, which is currently 0 kilometers because this is a showroom car, so this doesn't move much. Then we have the current fuel economy in this car, which is currently showing dashes because as we told you this is a showroom car and this doesn't move a lot. Then we have the average fuel economy. Then we can set the time on this display by rotating this stock, and that was it for this display. Now moving on to the other display, which is the infotainment display in this car. This display is like any other Honda display, but there are few changes made in this display which are mainly concerned with navigation. This time around, this display doesn't come equipped with the stock navigation. You can use the Google Maps or Apple Maps from Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Being a normal Honda display, we're not gonna waste any much more time on this. But if you want an in-depth review of this display, you can go watch our Honda Amaze video, which is linked in the description below, and the information card up here. Now other great feature in this car is of AC controls. This is the automatic AC control, but the main feature that we want to talk about in this is every single control for the AC is touch. Now the advantage for that is you can always control it normally by pressing the buttons, or you can control it using some gestures, for example this or this. Similarly for the fan speed as well, this and this. So that I guess is a great feature. In the top model of this car, which is ZX, you also get a sunroof. And now one feature that we have in the exterior of this car is keyless entry and go, and that means you don't need to fiddle around with your key at all. While the key in your pocket, you can go and grab the handle and the car will sense that the key is close by and it will open the door just like that. Similarly, if you want to go out, you don't need to have to take the key out for locking the car. You just need to close the door and press that one button for locking the car.
We'll start the practicality of this car with the glove box. Once you open it, as you can see, it's a fairly standard glove box. There is no kind of lighting or ventilation, but still you can get a lot of stuff stored over here, and that's really what matters. So I think it's a pretty cool glove box. Moving to the center console, you have a pretty deep storage cubby over here. Aside from keeping your phone, you can keep a lot of stuff over here, which is pretty cool. Over here we get two cup holders for the front seats in front of the shift lever. We get a USB port for the Apple CarPlay and for the Android Auto in this car. We get a normal USB port for charging your phone, and we get a 12-volt charging socket over here. Besides the handbrake in this car, you get a storage cubby over here and also a small little storage cubby over here. Now the armrest of this car, which has a weird shape, but still once you open it, it reveals a very deep storage cubby, and you can keep a lot of stuff over here without any problem. One thing that I do like is that they have given a small little cutout for in case you're charging your phone or something from the USB ports. You can just take the cable out of here and then close it as well, and it won't harm your cable and still keep charging your phone. Now in the front doors of this car, you get a magazine holder over here and a bottle holder over here. Now one thing pretty unique in this car is that once you come to the driver's side, you have a storage cubby right now, but you can also open it to make a cup holder. Now coming into the rear seats, there is very less practicality because you can see we don't have seat pockets, nor for the passenger side seat nor for the driver's side seat. You also don't get a storage cubby over here, no rear AC vents. You don't also get a rear armrest, but what you do get is a magazine holder which is really small and a bottle holder over here. So that's pretty odd. So all in all, in the rear, the practicality is pretty less. And now for the most important part of our practicality session, and that is the trunk of this car. And what I mainly want to see over here is that does it compensate for the less practicality that we got in the rear seats of this car. So does it compensate or not? Let's have a look over here. So first off, opening this trunk, we have two ways. First is the request sensor given below over here, and the second way is in the driver's side footwell area. So let's just open up the trunk in this car and have a look over here. And my first impressions are that yes, they surely have made a much larger trunk, and they actually call this the largest in the segment, I guess. So it's a much larger trunk compared to its competitors like the Vitara Brezza and all that. We also have a very sturdy cargo tray over here, so if you want to keep some stuff over here, you can. One of the best things in this car is that it's really easy to put down the rear seats. As you can see, with just two hands, simply I just put down the rear seat over here, and it goes even further, but I have some stuff over there, that's why it's not going. But it can completely lie flat down, and you can get a lot of stuff stored, and you can also remove the cargo tray from here, and then you have a full-blown trunk over here for keeping whatever you actually want. So that is pretty cool.
And now the most important segment for buying a car is comfort, and currently I'm in front seats. So I do have a functionality of moving the seats back and forth, moving the backrest back and forth, and height adjustability. But the height adjustability feature is only for the driver's side seat. If we talk about the seat material, I have fabric seats which are quite soft and grippy. So I don't think so that there will be any problem in going for a long road trip in this car. So as you guys just saw, I was sitting in the front seats and my height is 5'10", and even after that I have approximately 7 inches of legroom. So that proves this point that Honda calls this car the best in class space. And if we talk about the headroom, I do have 4 to 5 inches of headroom as well. So that's a nice thing. If we talk about the actual seat material, it is the same. Fabric seats, soft and very comfortable. So I don't think so that there will be any problem in going for a long road trip in this car. Now let's move on to the middle seat and see what kind of comfort we do have there. The main problem with the middle seat is of transmission tunnel. But in this car, the transmission tunnel is quite minimal, so it doesn't affect the person's sitting posture. You can either put your foot on the transmission tunnel or on the left side and right side. It's your choice.
It's now time to talk about the pricing of the 2020 Honda Jazz. So first I'm going to talk about the manual variants of this car, and then we'll move on to the CVT, that is the automatic variants of this car. But keep in mind that the prices that I'm going to tell you are the grand total, that is including insurance, the registration cost, every single thing you can think about while buying a car, but for the UT of Chandigarh. So if you live in any other state, just plus or minus 10 or 15,000 rupees according to the registration prices. So now let's talk about the manual variants. The base model in manual would cost you around 8,35,000 rupees for this car. The VX model, that is the middle model of this car in manual, would cost you 9 lakh rupees. Similarly, the top model of this car in manual would cost you 9,69,000 rupees. Once again, keep in mind that is the grand total price according to the UT of Chandigarh, including every single thing. Now, if we talk about the automatic variants of this car, well, the base model in automatic would cost you around 9,43,000 rupees. That is the base model, but with the automatic transmission. Similarly, the middle model of this car in automatic transmission, well, that car would cost you 10,08,000 rupees. And last but not the least, the top model of this car with an automatic transmission, well, that car would cost you 10,76,000 rupees. And so that was the pricing, but all the models of this car are available in a Pearl model. Well, that Pearl model is just 4,500 rupees more expensive than the normal variants. That is, for example, the base model of this car, that car costed you around 8,35,000 rupees. Well, if you want the base model with manual but with the Pearl model, that car would cost you 4,500 rupees extra, and that is 8,39,000 rupees. So do keep that in mind. Right, so we're now in the driver's seat of the Honda Jazz. So let's have a quick spin in this car, and I've deliberately tried to bring this car to one of the worst roads in Chandigarh to have a look. So let's see over here what kind of comfort this car has to provide and the driving experience. Alright, so first let me just tell you that we're driving the automatic variant of this car, the car that we were reviewing. So let me just tell you that we're on a very bumpy road right now, and as you can see, the camera is completely moving, but thanks to the fabric foamy seats in this car, I really don't feel it on the body. Like, the camera is stuck to the chassis of the car on the windscreen, that's why it's shaking so much. But while sitting in the driver's seat or any other seat in this car, the foam really does do a really good job in absorbing all those shocks. Now we're at a stoplight right now, and the one thing that I want to tell you guys is that there are no kind of unnecessary rattles in this car. You know, there's a very good build quality associated with this car, which I think is really nice. Now that the traffic has started moving, I'm just going to mash the throttle over here and see this pickup of the car. So what I noticed is that it does take a little bit of time for the car engine to, you know, build up that energy for the pickup, but once it does, after like 1 or 1.5 seconds, at that time the car just, you feel the car having that kind of a pickup, which I think is okay for a family car. It's not a sports car over here that you want this car from 0 to 100, in just 5 seconds. This car obviously won't be doing that, but according to a family city car, it's more than enough, the amount of pickup that this car has. Now once again, to check the pickup of this car, I'm going to pop this car into sport mode now, and now I'll be using the paddle shifters that we get with this car, which I think is really cool. So right now I'm at 2,500 RPMs, which I think is normal for city driving, but I'm going to mash the throttle now. And now I'm around at 4,000 or 4,500 RPMs, and it took me about 1 second to reach that RPM. So once again, you can have a little bit of idea what kind of a pickup this car has. Once again, I'm saying this again and again, it's really good pickup for a family car that this car is. And now if I talk about visibility in this car, which I think is really important for any driving experience, well, the windows of this car are really big. Obviously in the front I have the windscreen, which is very wide. I can see everything in front, and the ORVMs, the IRVM in this car, they're also of very decent size, so it gives me a pretty good view of the rear in this car. The back windscreen in this car is also of decent size and is very clear, so that I can see in the rear as well. However, I do feel the A-pillar in this car is a little bit wide, and it does cause a little bit problems while you're cornering the car or something. But once you're driving this car on a daily basis, you'll get the idea of each and every corner of the car, and it'll get very easy over time.
And so that was a detailed review of the all-new Honda Jazz. If you like this video, press that thumbs up button, comment down below what do we need to improve in our videos, share this video as much as you can, and a subscribe would be appreciated. Thank you.